What is going on, everyone? Phil here, and welcome to another movie review here on DSPReacts. This time, it is Dr. Sleep, the sequel. Yes, the sequel to the very classic, long-standing, very highly regarded horror book and movie, The Shining. Now, this month I reviewed a lot of horror movies. Do me a favor, if you've been watching all my reviews, let me know what you think. Please leave a comment on this video, give it a like if you enjoy it, consider supporting it with perhaps a super thanks, because this channel really does not make a lot of revenue, because a lot of the other videos I put out on this channel end up getting claimed. So please consider maybe becoming a member or some kind of support if you've been enjoying these reviews all month long, and always leave feedback and let me know what you think, and also suggestions for future reviews. Okay? Now, this is a very, very interesting situation. I saw The Shining many years ago, and it scared the crap out of me. I was much younger. It was one of the horror movies that I believe my father actually really liked from back in the day. He actually really likes Jack Nicholson as an actor. So I recall seeing The Shining at a much younger age than I would have seen other horror movies. And, I mean, let's be honest, if you've ever seen The Shining, it's a very scary movie. It's got gore. It's got scary scenes of ghosts. It's got all kinds of stuff. You know, the whole ending of the movie with Jack Nicholson chasing his family around the Outlook Hotel with an axe is one of the scariest sequences, I think, of any movie. To this day, when you watch it, his acting is superb, right? So, today, watching Dr. Sleep is pretty awesome because this is like a complete throwback and continuation to something from my childhood that used to scare me. And the thing is, for some reason, I never knew when the movie was made. Apparently, it came out in 2019. I knew the book was made because I'd actually seen the book in like a grocery store. They were selling it many years ago, probably like 5 or more years ago. But I didn't buy it or read it. And then all of a sudden, the movie apparently got made and I missed it. So I was really happy to hear about it. It actually was on Max this month. If you have, the Max app or whatever, you can watch this on the subscription service. And let me tell you something. I loved this movie. Okay, first of all, again, being a fan of the original movie and the movie being something that scared me back in the day, I didn't know how much of like a direct sequel this was going to be. Would it be a reimagining? Would it actually be a continuation of the plot? It's 100% a continuation of the plot, with the young Danny Torrance pictured here riding his big wheel through the Outlook Hotel, all grown up. You can see him at the top of the poster here, played by Ewan McGregor, the Obi-Wan from the Star Wars prequel trilogy. And man, the story is really cool if you're a fan of the original Shining. In fact, I'll go as far to say, although you can watch this movie as a standalone movie, I would strongly recommend, if you've never seen The Shining, or maybe you haven't read or seen the movie recently or read the book recently, get yourself caught up, because this movie directly continues the plot lines from that story. And if you're not up on it, you may be missing out on a ton of stuff going on in the movie. I'm going to try to review this movie as best I can without spoiling too much. The premise is, Danny is all grown up. He's had quite the traumatic childhood, obviously with the events of the Shining movie at that Outlook Hotel, his father losing his mind, being supposedly possessed by supernatural things, dying there, and then having to be raised alone by a single mother, and also still having his supernatural powers, not understanding exactly what the Shining is. The good news is, and this is just a minor plot spoiler that you should know, if you remember, the groundskeeper of the Outlook Hotel, who was actually present in the movie The Shining, he was the African-American gentleman who's bald. I forgot his name completely, but he's the one who introduces Danny to his shining powers in the first movie. Sadly, he's murdered by his father, who's possessed by demons in that first movie. He is now the spiritual guide of Danny throughout his life. He has become almost like a ghostly guide, like almost like the Jiminy Cricket sitting on his shoulder, and he's Pinocchio, and he's telling him what he should and shouldn't do, that he should have a conscience. That's kind of interesting to know that someone who was friendly with you in real life and had the shining power somehow became your spirit guide for the rest of your life. However, Danny has not had a good life. He has fallen into drugs. He has fallen into alcoholism, just like his father had, and his life is in shambles. The whole premise of the movie is twofold. Number one, Danny is trying to find a way to get his life together, and through the plot of the movie, he progressively does. At the same time, there is another plot line going on where someone else who has the Shining contacts Danny supernaturally because they need help. Basically, number one, they want a friend because they're looking for someone else who has the Shining power like he has. But number two, there's something else going on. And over the course of the movie, again, minor plot spoilers, you'll find out that there is another group of people who all have the Shining power, who are seeking out other people who have the Shining power, and they're doing one of two things. Either forcefully indoctrinating them. I don't know why I can't speak tonight. They're forcefully indoctrinating them into their own group, or, get this, they're trying to systematically kill off everyone else who has the Shining to somehow cannibalize their powers. So, Danny's growing up. He's a mess. He runs into another person who also has the Shining power, and they need help because there's this group of people out there seeking out people with the Shining to absorb it and cannibalize and become powerful themselves. That's pretty crazy. Now, does that sound like a far cry from The Shining, the original movie? It does. But I will tell you something. As this movie progresses, by the way, it is very lengthy. It's about 2.5 hours long, okay? For a horror movie, that's pretty darn long. This movie goes through so many acts, and I would definitely say you can tell when you watch the movie, much like when you watch any Stephen King movie. As you watch it, you realize, man, I bet the book's better, because there's certain parts in this movie that I really feel like they elaborated more on. For example, at one point, as Danny is finding himself as an adult, he takes on a job at a nursing home where he's helping people who are at the end of their lives come to grips with the fact that they're about to pass and basically be okay with that as they move into the afterlife. In fact, without spoiling, I'll tell you that's kind of why it ties into the name Dr. Sleep. If you're wondering what it means, it actually ties into that part of his plot line. However, this is part of the movie that's almost glossed over instantaneously. It's like maybe 5 minutes of the movie, if that. Really, it's barely ever discovered or discussed in the movie, yet that's the name of the movie. So when that happens, you're like, I bet in the book this is probably way more, elaborated on in a major chunk of the book. But for the movie, they just, here's what Dr. Sleep means. Let's move on. You know what I mean? So I like the movie, but I do feel like there are certain parts that maybe would have been better if you read the book. But overall, I absolutely loved the movie. I thought that Ewan McGregor did a great job. Actually, the child actress, I don't know her name, who plays one of the people in the movie who has the Shining power, she's really good. She does a really solid job acting in this movie. I was surprised because a lot of child actors, you cringe. I didn't cringe once. I thought she was very convincing. The group of people hunting people with the Shining are kind of interesting because they're all very, very different. However, I will say this. There is someone who they chose to act as the leader who's called Rose the Hat. She's supposed to be the leader of this group of people hunting people with the Shining power, but I wasn't ever scared of her. Like, I don't think she was ever scary. I think maybe they chose the wrong actress. I'm not saying the actress did a bad job. I just never found her menacing. I never found anything about her scary if she were coming after me. I don't know. Maybe if they found another woman who looked more evil or could act like more cruel, but this woman never really convinced me like she was a dangerous person, even though in the movie she is scripted to be. That, it didn't seem like that the actor fit the role. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's just miscasting. But outside of that, it's a 2.5-hour supernatural thrill ride with all kinds of stuff. Is there gore? Yes, there's gore in this movie. Are there scares and supernatural elements? Yes, there's multiple demons and ghosts and things in this movie that are quite scary. And without spoiling, because the ending of the movie is actually, in my opinion, superbly done. The final act of the movie, the last 20, 30, no, actually it's about the last hour, is really good. And if you're a fan of the original Shining movie or book, you are absolutely going to love the finale of this movie. That's all I'm going to say without spoiling. But man, the reason I really like this movie is, again, growing up having watched the original Shining and loving that movie. This movie has so many ties, returning characters. There's an actress who plays Danny's mother, originally played by Shelley Duvall in the original Shining movie. Obviously, they can't get her back to reprise the role. She's so much older. They got a new actress, and the funny part is she doesn't look like Shelley Duvall, but she acts just like her. Like her mannerisms and the way she plays the character, you can tell that's the character, even though it doesn't physically look like her anymore. Totally, that's the character. Dead on, nailed it. And there's a bunch of returning characters and things from the original movie that come back in this one that are played by different actors, but they all do a really great job of filling in the role of that character. They are believable as the new actors or actresses of those characters. So, 2.5 hours, it's a long movie. And let me tell you, yes, there are a couple parts We're like, man, all right, maybe it could have been done a little bit different. Maybe it could have been sped up or, you know, a little bit differently. And again, there's other parts I wish they had stretched out upon it and elaborate a little bit more on, like the whole Dr. Sleep thing. It was fascinating and it really didn't get a lot of screen time. But for the movie it was, I loved it. I'm actually angry that I didn't know this movie had come out in 2019, and here I am watching it in 2023. I wish I had seen it 4 years ago because I actually liked the movie that much. This is actually, in my opinion, one of my favorite kind of creepy horror thriller movies that I've seen in the last 10 years. It's that well shot and that well acted of a movie, and I'm upset that I missed it when it was new. I'm surprised I didn't even hear about it. So, Dr. Sleep, number one, if you're a fan of The Shining, it's got to be a must-watch. Number two, if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of suspense and thrills and stuff, you'll probably love the movie. There's super creepy scenes. There's some psychological horror stuff. There's really a lot of elements to this movie. Plus great acting, great cinematography. And again, for fans of the original, there's a lot of stuff here for you. But I do strongly recommend you watch the original or read the original Shining before you watch this movie, or you're going to miss a lot. But this is actually, arguably, of all the movies I've seen in October so far, this is my favorite one by far. Super duper good movie. Really enjoyed it. And I hope that you'll give it a look because it is a superb follow-up to the original Shining. All right? Thank you all for watching my review of Dr. Sleep. I hope you'll check it out. And again, reminder, if you could, let me know your feedback on these reviews. If you've liked them this month, if you want more of them. Do you have recommendations for improvement? Please, leave me comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Consider supporting it in some way. Thank you all. And by the way, there's one more horror review coming this month. And if you like animatronics coming to life, I think you're going to like it. I'll see you next week. But in the meantime, stay chill. Enjoy the October month. And I'll see ya for Five Nights at Freddy's very soon.